Huh. Yeah, that is it's a really strong background in terms of like a variety of strong experience, within the different domains, which, I always tell people like when they're trying to get started in IT or in cybersecurity, I always tell them like you want to get as much experience as possible in as many different domains as possible. Right. And everyone always wants to like get into cloud security specifically because that's like the big, that's kind of like the big overarching, umbrella now, right? Like infrastructure security is like that old
Absolutely.
thing. Anyone can do infrastructure security, right? But figuring out the cloud is a different beast. And, I still always tell them like, hey, you need to know, everything on-prem, like that's when it's easy, right? Like you shouldn't be just jumping straight into the cloud. Like, yeah, you can go and get, your AWS Foundation cert or your Azure Foundation cert, all that
Hmm.
sort of stuff. But you need that strong, diverse background before you
Absolutely.
start playing in a field, right, where like anything can be built at any scale within seconds. Like how's it going, everyone? This episode is sponsored by Bonafy AI. So I'll tell you a little bit of a background about how I came across them and how they became a sponsor of the podcast. So currently I work for a professional services firm called Security, and part of my duties is to help assist my customers with their projects that they have going on and identify any key technologies that may assist them in completing their projects. And I have one customer that was going into a DLP process or starting off a DLP project, and they were learning that it was a lot more involved than they were expecting. If they were going to continue down this path, they were going to have to increase their team size, and they're a very small company. So it just didn't make sense. But they needed to get it done. They have a lot of data that they needed to classify and protect and ensure that they know where it is. And that's where I stumbled upon Bonfy AI. So they come in and it's very simple. They have an AI that's built for this sort of thing, and they really optimize the workflow in every way possible. Right. So that's how I found them. And then they saw that I was doing the podcast and they wanted to support it. And so here we are. Now, with that, they didn't tell me what questions to ask or anything like that, right? They came on, gave their expert opinion, didn't direct the conversation or anything like that. They showed a little bit of the product, and that's really it. Everything that I say is straight from me. It's not choreographed or anything like that. So I hope you guys enjoy the episode. And if you want to learn more about the product, maybe you can introduce it into your environment. There's going to be a link in the description of this episode. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the episode. How in the world do you control that? Because on-prem, that server's only going to hold so much, Like there's only going to be so many resources for an on-prem server. But in AWS, if you tell it, hey, spin up a million containers, I mean, it's not even going to think about it. It's not going to ask you to confirm, like, hey, you sure you want a million? It's going to be like, no, okay, we're raking in the money now. Let's go spin up a million for this guy, whether he wanted it or not.
Absolutely.